For a long time in WWE, John Cena was portrayed as the top attraction in sports entertainment. Even though he had a, shall we say, difficult relationship with the crowd, Cena was still put in this position as the biggest star in WWE for nearly a decade. He's won 16 world titles, he's had some of the most memorable matches in company history, and he is surely a future first ballot Hall of Famer. But now, the man is 45 years old and is establishing himself more as a Hollywood megastar than an in-ring competitor. So, with Cena seemingly winding down his time as a WWE superstar, I think it's about time we take a look at John Cena and his final years in WWE. Ever since 2015, John Cena's role in the company has been drastically different to what it was even just 2 years prior. From around 2005 to late 2014, John Cena was the guy. He was the one man on top. Even though we had guys like Batista, Edge, and Triple H all competing for that top spot, it's impossible to argue that Cena wasn't the top star in the company. He rarely lost, beating some of the best sports entertainers in company history, as he continued to almost exclusively hold the WWE Championship throughout his entire run. Hell, the WWE title design that he himself introduced in 2005 was finally retired in 2013, right before Cena's slow move towards Hollywood. Everything in the WWE was specifically designed for him, even if it wasn't the most popular choice at the time. But we fast forward to 2014 and the entire landscape of WWE has changed. Edge had his first retirement, Batista's off battling as a Guardian of the Galaxy, and Triple H is starting to settle into his backstage role overseeing NXT. And while the old guard of the Ruthless Aggression era would start to fall away from the ring, the world was forced to sit back and ask themselves one question: what's next for John Cena? Well, while he's still a huge name for WWE around this time, Cena's stock in the company had already started to fall. Sure, in 2013, he was main eventing WrestleMania 29 against The Rock, but in the span of just 1 year, the world of professional wrestling had completely shifted. And you can see the showcase just 1 year following that match at WrestleMania 30. Cesaro won the first ever Andre the Giant Battle Royal, the Shield put on a dominating display against Kane and the New Age Outlaws, and of course, who can forget Daniel Bryan defying all expectations and winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. The next generation of WWE stars were coming in hot. Cena, however, found himself cooling off a bit as he trickled down towards the middle of the WrestleMania card. Sure, he was in a featured match, but it certainly wasn't a main event spotlight against The Rock. No, like with Bryan, Cesaro, and The Shield, the future was once again put on display as Cena would go up against the new terrifying presence of WWE, Bray Wyatt. And while Cena may have won that bout, this match would become a prime example of WWE slowly fading Cena out of the main event picture in exchange for some of the young and hungry talent coming through the company. However, this then would start Cena on a new mission that he would continue for the rest of his career. Even though Cena has dealt with criticism over the years as being an unstoppable machine, we would soon start to see him using that reputation to his advantage. So, with Cena spending nearly a decade on top of the company, he would use that status to embark on a new journey. If you wanted to prove yourself as a future world champion, then you had to go through the face that runs the place himself, John Cena. And in 2015, that was made apparent during his run as United States champion. While holding the belt, Cena would hold an open challenge every week to see who could take the title from him. And this open challenge would prove to be a huge development for both the fans and the WWE's undercard. Every week on Raw, John would come down to the ring to see who would face him, and the crowd were always on the edge of their seats, waiting in anticipation. Would it be an underutilized star of Raw? Would it be a dream match scenario? Would it be a debuting competitor from NXT? You just never knew. Some of the highlights of this open challenge included matches against the white-hot Cesaro, the high-flying Neville, and the underdog from the underground and Sami Zayn. Of course, Cena's run as champion wouldn't just consist of these one-off matches either. His reign also showcased one of the most interesting feuds of the mid-2010s as he would battle the NXT champion Kevin Owens. In Kevin Owens' debut battle in the company, he would choose to go after Cena as a way to prove his worth in the company. And not only was his debut match on the main roster against John Cena, not only was it on a pay-per-view, but it also saw him pin the former WWE champion. A big start for Kevin that you can never take away from him. Sure, it's fair to say that Cena won the feud overall, but Kevin's impact during his debut battles with Big Match John immediately positioned him in the main event scene. He would go on to win multiple championships, including the Intercontinental, United States, and Universal title, all off the back of this massive run against Cena to begin with. But now we fast forward to 2016. Cena has lost the title to Seth Rollins, and following a successful shoulder injury, Cena was ready to get back to action. But in his absence, absence, the WWE had completely changed once again. And that was all due to 3 men: Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and one of Cena's biggest rivals of the late 2010s, the phenomenal AJ Styles. Styles had built up a fantastic career throughout the world, battling in both New Japan and Impact. He was a world-renowned megastar of pro wrestling and wanted to take a crack at the biggest mainstream performer in WWE. It was the best pro wrestler in the world versus the best sports entertainer in the world, and the matches that would follow up certainly lived up to the hype. At Money in the Bank, Cena would lose to AJ Styles via assistance of Gallows and Anderson. In their rematch at SummerSlam, AJ would beat Cena again in a match of the year caliber performance, and with those 2 wins against Cena under his belt, AJ would catapult himself into the WWE Championship picture before taking the title from Dean Ambrose at Backlash. However, like with Kevin Owens, Cena would look to win the feud in one last rematch. If AJ wins, he can definitely stamp himself as the best performer in WWE, but if John wins, he can live on as the second competitor in history to be a 16-time world champion. And at the 2017 Royal Rumble event, Cena would finally secure a victory over the Phenomenal One to become the WWE Champion once again. But don't feel too bad for Styles. Because of those prior 2 victories of Cena, Styles was a made man and is still a prominent feature of the WWE roster. And besides, Cena's WWE title reign wouldn't last that long either, because at Elimination Chamber, Cena once again found himself elevating the younger generation of WWE by handing Bray Wyatt his first world championship. And while Bray's run with the title left much to be desired, to say the least, Cena's loss to Wyatt still put Bray near the top of the company as the new face of fear. But after a few micro feuds against the likes of The Miz and Baron Corbin, Cena would once again continue his mission to elevate the next top stars of WWE. And who better than the man destined to take Cena's place as the franchise player with Roman Reigns. And this feud with Roman would prove to be quite interesting, both in the moment and from today's perspective, in my opinion. While today Roman is hailed as the tribal chief of WWE, Roman would find himself in a very different position back then. He mirrored Cena in a lot of ways, with the fans continuously booing the big dog despite his slow rise up the card as a babyface. And in the build, neither man hid behind this. The constant fan disapproval for both men would be brought to life, sharing a lot of information with the fans. Vince McMahon personally chose Cena and Roman as the top guys of their respective eras, and the two would actually address that on the show rather than leaving it as this industry secret and insulting our intelligence. However, in the end, the next generation would once again prove to be too much for him, as a devastating spear would lead Roman to a victory over Cena at No Mercy. And with this loss, Cena's position as a part-time competitor would fully take hold. The absences would spread for over longer periods of time, as over the next few years, Cena would only show up less than a dozen times. His mission continued, of course, with him continuing to appear alongside the next crop of talent, but it just happened far less frequently than before. Andrade Cien Almas, Becky Lynch, Elias, and Kevin Owens were the names surrounding Cena over the next few years during those sporadic appearances. But then we get to one of the most interesting matches in WWE history, because after elevating him 2 separate times before this, Cena would once again find himself in a match against Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 36. This time though, Cena would be facing off against a very different monster in a very unique environment. The Firefly Funhouse match against Bray's new gimmick as The Fiend sent shockwaves throughout the pro wrestling world. Cena wouldn't just disappear from our screens. No, he was eradicated, sent to the land of Hollywood, as the version of him in WWE was dissected and torn apart in the Funhouse. However, you can't ever count out Big Match John, and after a very long absence due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Cena would return to close out the Money in the Bank event in 2021. And he would return to a thunderous ovation and a glare from the most dangerous champion in the company at the time, and currently, Roman Reigns. No longer was Roman the next heir to John Cena as the future of WWE. No, now Roman is the top competitor in the company. He had officially transformed by this point into the dangerous tribal chief character that had dominated WWE for nearly a year at this point. And that domination would continue, as Cena's mission to put over the next generation would do the same. Roman, like he's done with so many before and since, would spear John Cena to defeat him, and if you want to get a full full breakdown of Roman's entire run as the Universal Champion, go ahead and check out the video I made on this. Cena has given so much over the past decade to helping the next generation of talent. Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, and many more now find themselves at the top of the card due to their involvement with him. This mission that Cena has been set out to achieve has worked. The future of WWE is in safe hands, and you can't deny that Cena had a huge hand in it. And with his match against Austin Theory at WrestleMania 39, it seems like this mission for Cena continues. And considering Theory has been embarked as the next big star for WWE, one would have to assume that Cena's shoulders will be planted to the mat at the end of their bout. However, even if that's not the case, Cena's mission stays true since Theory's stock is destined to rise simply by being in a WrestleMania match with the legendary John Cena. And who knows, even if Cena does win the bout, maybe we'll see that US title open challenge come back with a couple debuting stars. Cough cough, the Switchblade Jay White. But what does Cena do following the match with Theory? Well, with Cena continuing to explore Hollywood with bigger and bigger roles, such as his portrayal of Peacemaker in the DC universe, you would have to assume that he will continue to take these long absences from the ring. Sure, he'll probably pop in every now and then, but it's safe to say that his days as a full-time competitor are over and behind us. However, with his position as a top draw in WWE, it's very easy to see him appear around WrestleMania season every year or so to once again take on the stars of tomorrow. He's destined to put on some once-in-a-lifetime matches, and I'm not just talking about his feud with The Rock, because whether it be the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, the overpowering Gunther, or the current NXT champion Braun Breaker, Cena's final years in the WWE are going to be rather interesting. But let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below with your opinions, and of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to not miss the next one. Thank you so much for watching.